A CEO contacts IT support, concerned that someone may have discovered their Mac password. As the technician, how would you guide them to change it? Select one answer. A. Open Safari and search for password settings. B. Navigate to System Settings, Login Password. C. Download a third-party password manager. D. Use the terminal to force a password reset. Correct answer, B. Navigate to System Settings, Login Password. Let's take a moment to explain this choice. When someone needs to change their Mac login password, the simplest and most direct method is to go through System Settings. It's user-friendly and designed for such routine actions. Therefore, guiding the CEO to navigate to System Settings and select Login Password is the most efficient and secure approach. On the other hand, using Safari to search for password settings isn't necessary. All essential configurations are already accessible within macOS itself. Similarly, downloading a third-party password manager is unrelated here, since those tools manage stored credentials, not the system login password. Finally, using the terminal to force a password reset may sound like a powerful option, but it's far too advanced and unnecessary for this situation. That route is typically reserved for system administrators handling locked-out accounts or recovery scenarios. So, the built-in path through system settings remains the best and safest recommendation. A student signs into a shared iPad using a temporary session. What should they be aware of when using apps or websites? Select one answer. A. They can use iCloud to back up their work. B. Their browsing data will be saved for later. C. They can purchase books via the App Store. D. Their data will be deleted when they log out. Correct answer. D. Their data will be deleted when they log out. Now let's explain why this is the right choice. Temporary sessions on shared iPads are designed to protect privacy and ensure no personal data lingers after use. That's why all user data, including files, browsing history, and app activity, is wiped automatically when the session ends. So it's critical that students know their work won't be saved. Meanwhile, using iCloud to back up work isn't supported in this mode because iCloud access requires a managed Apple ID, which temporary sessions don't provide. Additionally, browsing data cannot be saved for future sessions, since the entire user profile is discarded upon logout. Finally, purchasing content like books from the App Store is restricted in temporary sessions. These limitations ensure the session remains secure and doesn't carry over data or purchases. In summary, temporary sessions prioritize privacy by deleting everything after use, so students must plan accordingly. A user is repeatedly prompted for their Apple ID password by someone helping them optimize their device. What's the best action for the user? Select one answer. A. Provide the password for convenience. B. Set up a shared Apple account with that person. C. Refuse and update their Apple ID password. D. Log out of the App Store. Correct answer. C. Refuse and update their Apple ID password. Let's walk through why this is the best option. The safest and most responsible action in this situation is to refuse the request and immediately update the Apple ID password. Sharing login credentials, even with someone offering help, can lead to unauthorized access, compromised data, or identity theft. Updating the password helps secure the account if there's any chance it's already been exposed. Now, providing the password for convenience may seem helpful in the moment, but it undermines account security and violates Apple's best practices. Similarly, setting up a shared Apple ID with someone else introduces serious privacy concerns, as it gives that person access to sensitive personal data, purchases, and messages. Logging out of the App Store doesn't resolve the root issue either. The password is still vulnerable if it's been shared or exposed. Therefore, the correct and most secure response is to reject the prompt and change the password immediately. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. Users can back up their device using the Transfer or Reset iPad option. Answer: true. The General section contains options for both software updates and device storage management. Answer: true. Jamf Pro can manage every setting in the Settings app, including all Apple-restricted options. Answer: false. Touch ID and passcode settings cannot be configured without first signing in with an Apple ID. Answer: false. Let's take a moment to explain these statements. First, the statement about backing up using the Transfer or Reset iPad option is true. This option includes tools to prepare the device for reset or handover, which includes creating a backup before erasing content. Second, it's also true that the General section contains both software update settings and device storage management. These are key features in maintaining device performance and space. Third, the claim that Jamf Pro can manage every setting is false. While Jamf Pro is powerful, Apple restricts management of certain settings for security and privacy, such as some Apple ID features. Lastly, the idea that Touch ID and passcode settings require Apple ID login is false. Users can access and configure these local security settings without signing into an Apple ID. So while some controls are tightly integrated with Apple ID, many critical settings remain accessible at the device level. Marco wants to personalize his new iPad to reflect his interests and make information easier to access. What changes can he make to achieve this? Select two answers. A, add widgets to the home screen. B, adjust the text size. C, overclock the processor. D, change the shape of the iPad. Correct answers: A, add widgets to the home screen, and B, adjust the text size. Let's take a moment to explore these options. First, adding widgets to the home screen is a powerful way to customize an iPad. Widgets give users quick access to apps, information, and personal content like weather, calendar events, or reminders, all laid out in a format that suits their daily needs. Second, adjusting the text size is another useful customization. Users can increase or decrease the size of text across the system, helping with visibility and reading comfort, especially for those with visual preferences or needs. On the other hand, overclocking the processor is not supported on iPads. Apple devices are built with fixed performance settings, and attempting to change this could not only void warranties, but also damage the device. Lastly, the shape of the iPad is a physical characteristic and can be altered through settings. Personalization on iPads is software-based, not hardware modifiable. So to truly personalize his iPad experience, Marco should focus on layout and display adjustments, not hardware alterations. An IT technician wants to quickly check what hardware is installed in a user's Mac. Which section should they open in System Information? Select one answer. A, Network. B, Hardware Overview. C, Software Extensions. D, Display Settings. Correct answer: B, Hardware Overview. Let's take a moment to explain this answer. The Hardware Overview section in System Information is designed specifically to show detailed information about the Mac's physical components. This includes the processor type, memory, storage devices, and other essential hardware specs, all in one place for a quick review. By contrast, the Network section only shows connectivity details like IP addresses and current network interfaces. It doesn't provide any insight into the internal hardware. Software Extensions covers kernel extensions and other low-level software, not actual hardware specs. It's useful for developers and security reviews, but not for hardware checks. Finally, Display Settings focuses on resolution and screen configuration, which are useful for visual customization but unrelated to internal hardware diagnostics. So, if the goal is to get a quick snapshot of the Mac's physical build, Hardware Overview is the go-to location. What condition must be met for data volume encryption to be active? Select one answer. A, a VPN must be turned on. B, Bluetooth must be disabled. C, a passcode must be set on the device. D, the app must be from the App Store. Correct answer: C, a passcode must be set on the device. Let's take a moment to explain this answer. Data volume encryption on Apple devices is directly tied to whether or not a passcode is set. Without a passcode, the system doesn't enable encryption for the device's storage, leaving it potentially vulnerable if lost or stolen. Setting a passcode activates encryption, ensuring data at rest is protected. On the other hand, turning on a VPN only encrypts data in transit, such as internet traffic, not what's stored on the device itself. Disabling Bluetooth is unrelated to encryption altogether. It might be part of security policy, but it doesn't affect how data is encrypted. Lastly, requiring that app come from the App Store has no impact on whether the data volume is encrypted. Encryption is a system-level feature, not something controlled by app source. So for encryption to take effect, setting a passcode is the essential step. An admin wants to reduce the risk of malware from apps downloaded outside the App Store. What built-in macOS feature helps with this? Select one answer. A, File Vault. B, Spotlight. C. Gatekeeper. D. Keychain access. Correct answer, C. Gatekeeper. Let's take a moment to understand this choice. Gatekeeper is the built-in macOS security feature designed specifically to protect users from potentially harmful apps. It works by verifying apps downloaded from the internet to ensure they're from identified developers and haven't been tampered with. If an app doesn't meet Apple's safety standards, Gatekeeper will block it from launching unless overridden. Now, File Vault is a security feature too, but it focuses on encrypting the contents of the disk. It doesn't scan or verify downloaded apps, so it doesn't directly reduce the risk of malware. Spotlight is simply a search tool used to find files and apps on the system. It doesn't offer any protection against malicious software. Lastly, Keychain Access manages passwords and certificates. While it's important for credential security, it plays no role in determining whether an app is safe to install or run. So for minimizing malware risks from apps outside the App Store, Gatekeeper is the right defense tool built into macOS. What is the primary design focus of Apple File System APFS? Select one answer. A. Compatibility with Windows. B. Encryption and flash optimization. C. Backward compatibility with HFS+. D. Reducing graphical interface lag. Correct answer B. Encryption and flash optimization. Now let's break down why this is correct. The Apple File System, or APFS, was specifically engineered for modern Apple hardware, particularly devices with flash or SSD storage. Its core priorities include strong encryption, space sharing, and performance improvements tailored to flash memory. This makes encryption and flash optimization its main design goals. Compatibility with Windows, on the other hand, is not a concern for APFS. It's a proprietary Apple format and is not natively readable by Windows systems. Backward compatibility with HFS+ is also not a feature. While APFS can coexist on systems that previously used HFS+, it is not backward compatible in terms of disk format or behavior. Lastly, reducing graphical interface lag is not a file system function. UI performance is managed by graphics and software optimization, not the file system layer. So, the correct design focus of APFS lies squarely in enhancing encryption and optimizing for flash-based storage. Which protocol does Apple use to encrypt data while it's being transmitted between the device and iCloud? Select one answer. A. TLS. B. UDP. C. Bluetooth LE. D. IPv4. Correct answer. TLS. Let's take a moment to explain this answer. TLS, or Transport Layer Security, is the standard protocol Apple uses to encrypt data in transit between a user's device and iCloud. This ensures that personal data like photos, documents, and backups is protected from interception during transmission. UDP is incorrect because it's a connectionless protocol that does not provide encryption by itself. It's used where speed is critical, like video streaming, but not where secure transmission is needed. Bluetooth LE is used for short-range wireless communication, like connecting to an Apple Watch or AirPods. It plays no role in encrypting data between a device and the cloud. IPv4 is a foundational transport protocol that routes data over the internet. However, it doesn't include any encryption functionality. It's about addressing and delivery, not security. So when Apple secures your iCloud traffic, it relies on TLS to keep the data safe during its journey. What type of applications are found in the /system applications directory? Select one answer. A. User-installed third-party apps. B. Archived iCloud documents. C. Native macOS apps like Calendar and Chess. D. Shared scripts between users. Correct answer. C. Native macOS apps like Calendar and Chess. Let's break this down with some explanation. The System Applications Directory is a protected area in macOS where Apple's native apps are stored. These include built-in applications such as Calendar, Chess, Safari, and others that come pre-installed with the operating system. Because this folder is system protected, users can't modify or delete these apps easily, ensuring stability and integrity. Now, user-installed third-party apps are not stored here. They typically reside in the General Applications Directory, which is accessible to the user. Archived iCloud documents don't belong in either location. They're stored in a user's iCloud drive or within specific app folders under the user's library or documents directory. Lastly, shared scripts between users are stored in locations like user/shared or custom script directories, not in system/applications. So when you're looking inside /system applications, You're seeing core Apple apps, not user apps or shared content. Which keyboard shortcut displays selected items in index sheet view in Quick Look? Select one answer. A. Command Return. B. Shift Tab. C. Command Option F. D. Control Shift S. Correct answer. A. Command Return. Now let's explain this shortcut. Command Return is the correct keyboard shortcut for opening the index sheet view in Quick Look on macOS. This is especially useful when multiple files are selected, as it presents them in a convenient grid layout for previewing. Shift Tab, however, serves no function within Quick Look. It's generally used for navigation in forms or applications, but not here. Command Option F is typically associated with triggering the search or find feature, not for visualizing files in a grid. And Control Shift S is not a recognized shortcut in Quick Look. It doesn't trigger any file viewing functions in this context. So if you want to view a selection of files in a tiled preview, Command Return is the shortcut to remember. Which user folder allows shared access between all user accounts on a Mac? Select one answer. A. Desktop. B. Documents. C. Shared. D. Public. Correct answer. C. Shared. Let's take a moment to explain why. The shared folder is specifically designed to allow multi-user file access on macOS. It's located in the /users directory and is accessible by all users on the system. This makes it ideal for files between user accounts on the same Mac. In contrast, the desktop folder is tied to the currently logged in user. Other users on the system cannot access this folder by default. The Documents folder is also private. It's meant to store personal documents and is isolated per user account for privacy and security. Although the Public folder sounds like it would be system-wide, it actually exists within each user's home directory. It's only public relative to that specific user's context, not shared across all accounts. So if the goal is to share files across multiple users on one Mac, the shared folder is the correct and intended location. A Jamf Pro administrator wants to allow a user account to have read-only access across the environment. What is the most appropriate privilege set to assign? Select one answer. A. Auditor. B. Enrollment only. C. Custom with manual privilege selection. D. Administrator. Correct answer. A. Auditor. Let's explore why this is the best choice. The Auditor privilege set is designed specifically for read-only access. It provides visibility into the Jamf Pro environment without granting the ability to make any changes. That makes it ideal for roles such as compliance officers or reviewers who need to observe but not interact. Enrollment only, on the other hand, allows a user to enroll new devices but doesn't provide access to broader environment details. So it's not suitable for read-only oversight. While custom with manual privilege selection could be configured for read-only access, it requires more effort and increases the risk of assigning unintended permissions. The auditor role avoids that by being purpose-built. Lastly, administrator is far too powerful for this scenario. It grants full access to read and write throughout the system, which defeats the goal of restricting access. So, if your aim is to assign someone view-only permissions, the auditor privilege set is the most appropriate and secure choice. A company is using Jamf Cloud. What configuration step can they skip when setting up user-initiated enrollment? Select one answer. A. Creating a management account. B. Adding an LDAP server. C. Uploading a third-party SSL certificate. D. Customizing enrollment messaging. Correct answer. C. Uploading a third-party SSL certificate. Now let's go over why this is the correct answer. Jamf Cloud comes with a built-in trusted SSL certificate, so there is no need for the organization to upload a separate third-party certificate. This simplifies setup and helps ensure secure communications out of the box. On the other hand, creating a management account, although optional, is still highly recommended for managing devices after they're enrolled. Adding an LDAP server is essential if the company plans to use directory-based user authentication during enrollment. Skipping it would limit their ability to verify users against their existing directory services. Lastly, customizing enrollment messaging isn't mandatory, but it's a valuable step for aligning the user experience with company policies and providing guidance during the enrollment process. So, out of all the options, the only one that can be confidently skipped in Jamf Cloud is uploading a third-party SSL certificate, since Jamf provides this by default. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. Jamf Pro supports creating user accounts and assigning specific privileges based on roles. Answer: true. LDAP or SSO users inherit privileges automatically without Jamf configuration. Answer: false. Privilege sets like administrator and auditor are customizable after selection. Answer: false. Email notifications can only be enabled if the user account has a full name specified. Answer: false. Now let's break down each of these. The first statement is true. Jamf Pro supports fine-grained control over user access by allowing admins to assign specific privileges based on organizational roles. This helps maintain secure and efficient delegation of tasks. The second is false because even when using LDAP or SSO, privileges do not automatically carry over. They still need to be explicitly assigned within Jamf Pro for each user or group. The third statement is also false. Predefined privilege sets like administrator or auditor are locked. You can't modify them. If you need flexibility, you must create a custom privilege set. Lastly, the fourth is false. Enabling email notifications doesn't require a user's full name. What's actually needed is a valid email address and an SMTP setup within Jamf Pro to send out messages. So while Jamf Pro offers a lot of flexibility, it also requires deliberate configuration of user roles and communication settings. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. APNs delivers Jamf Pro commands only when a device is actively connected to a network. Answer: true. Jamf Pro automatically assigns devices to APNs without configuration. False. Global Service Exchange, GSX, displays warranty information inside Jamf Pro inventory. True. Apple self-servicing account access is automatically granted to all institutions. Answer: false. Let's now explore the reasoning behind each. The first statement is true. For Apple Push Notification Service, APNs, to deliver Jamf Pro commands, the device must be powered on and connected to a network. Otherwise, the commands remain queued until the device reconnects. The second statement is false because Jamf Pro does not automatically assign devices to APNs. Administrators must configure APNs manually and install a valid push certificate for Jamf Pro to communicate with Apple devices. The third statement is true. Once GSX, Global Service Exchange, is integrated with Jamf Pro, it provides real-time warranty status and service data for Apple devices directly within the Jamf inventory. The final statement is false. Access to Apple's self-servicing account is not automatically provided to all institutions. Schools or businesses must apply and meet Apple's requirements before gaining access. So, while Jamf Pro integrates smoothly with Apple services, several steps, like APN setup and self-servicing account application, require explicit configuration or approval. After using Jamf Parent to manage a group of devices, you now want to revoke all management capabilities. What should you perform? Select one answer. A. Remove Jamf Parent management capabilities. B. Delete the devices from Jamf Pro. C. Send a wipe command. D. Remove restrictions set by Jamf Teacher. Correct answer: A. Remove Jamf Parent management capabilities. Let's walk through the reasoning. To revoke Jamf Parent management features without affecting other settings or erasing content, you should use the Remove Jamf Parent Management Capabilities option. This cleanly strips the Jamf Parent link from the devices, ensuring that parents no longer have control, but the devices remain fully managed by Jamf Pro. Deleting the devices from Jamf Pro would completely remove them from the management system, an unnecessary and disruptive step just to revoke Jamf Parent access. Sending a wipe command is far too aggressive. It erases all content on the device, which is not the goal in this situation. Removing restrictions set by Jamf Teacher wouldn't affect Jamf Parent capabilities because they operate through separate systems and policies. So, for a clean and specific removal of parental controls, the best and most targeted action is to remove Jamf Parent management capabilities. An administrator is preparing to enable automated device enrollment. What user roles are required in Apple Business Manager to complete the integration steps? Select one answer. A. Content Manager or People Manager. B. Finance Manager or Staff. C. Administrator or Device Manager. D. IT Specialist or Network Operator. Correct answer: C. Administrator or Device Manager. Let's look at why this is the correct choice. To complete automated device enrollment integration, a user must have either the administrator or device manager role in Apple Business Manager. These roles have the permissions required to link MDM servers, generate and upload server tokens, and configure device assignment settings. Content Manager or People Manager roles are limited to managing apps and user accounts. They don't have access to MDM settings. Finance Manager or staff are focused on purchasing and billing functions. They cannot manage device enrollment or MDM configurations. And finally, IT Specialist or Network Operator are not even defined roles within Apple Business Manager, so they don't apply here. In summary, only administrators and device managers have the necessary privileges to carry out MDM server integration for device enrollment. A technician is preparing a pre-stage enrollment for a company with Apple Silicon Macs running macOS 11.5 or later. To ensure users cannot access Recovery OS without permission, which settings should be configured? Select one answer. A. Enable activation lock. B. Set recovery lock password. C. Make MDM profile mandatory. D. Skip account creation. Correct answer, B. Set recovery lock password. Let's go through the explanation. The set recovery lock password setting is critical for Apple Silicon Macs. It restricts access to Recovery OS by requiring a password, which helps prevent unauthorized users from reinstalling macOS or modifying the device through recovery mode. This is the only option here that directly controls Recovery OS access. Now, Enable Activation Lock is useful for protecting the device if it's lost or stolen, but it doesn't block someone from entering Recovery OS. Make MDM profile mandatory ensures that the device installs the management profile, but it doesn't restrict access to Recovery OS either. Skip account creation simply prevents users from creating a local account during setup. It has no effect on OS recovery access. So, for controlling access to Recovery OS and ensuring device integrity, the technician should set the recovery lock password. A school IT administrator is rolling out iPads to teachers. These are institutionally owned devices, and she wants to control which staff members can enroll them via device enrollment. She also wants users to log in before enrolling. What two configurations should she apply? Select two answers. A. Enable LDAP integration in Jamf Pro. B. Disable Require Login option in Enrollment Invitation. C. Enable Profile-Driven Device Enrollment in the Devices tab. D. Send an enrollment invitation with Require Login enabled. E. Create Managed Apple Accounts in Apple Business Manager. Correct answers: A. Enable LDAP integration in Jamf Pro, and D. Send an enrollment invitation with Require Login enabled. Let's explain why these are the correct choices. First, enabling LDAP integration in Jamf Pro allows the system to authenticate staff members during the enrollment process. This helps tie each device to the appropriate user and ensures that only authorized personnel can enroll devices. Second, by sending an enrollment invitation with Require Login enabled, the administrator ensures that enrollment access is restricted to specific users. This step prevents public or accidental enrollments by requiring login credentials to proceed. As for the incorrect options, disabling the Require Login option contradicts the goal of controlled access. It allows open enrollment, which is not suitable for a school-managed rollout. Enabling Profile-Driven Enrollment simply supports enrollment but does not enforce access control. Creating managed Apple accounts relates to account-driven enrollment, not device-based control through invitations. Therefore, to maintain both security and control during deployment, the administrator should use LDAP integration and Require Login enrollment invitations. An IT admin accidentally sends the unmanaged device command to a student iPad. What will happen as a result? Select two answers. A. The device will stop communicating with Jamf Pro. The Jamf binary and self-service will remain. C. Configuration profiles and managed apps will be removed. D. The inventory record will be deleted from Jamf Pro. Correct answers: A. The device will stop communicating with Jamf Pro, and C. Configuration profiles and managed apps will be removed. Let's break down why these are the correct outcomes. When a device is unmanaged, it loses its connection to Jamf Pro, meaning the server can no longer push updates, commands, or retrieve data from the device. This breaks the MDM relationship and halts communication. Hence, A is correct. Additionally, C is also correct because configuration profiles and managed apps are delivered via the MDM profile. Once the device is unmanaged, that profile is removed along with everything tied to it. B is incorrect because the Jamf binary and self-service are both removed once a device is unmanaged. They are part of the managed framework. D is also incorrect. The inventory record stays in Jamf Pro, even if the device is no longer managed. This allows admins to reassign or re-enroll the device if needed in the future. So the result of unmanaging is that the device stops talking to Jamf Pro, and all MDM-delivered settings and software are wiped off. What are the two main types of user-initiated enrollment? Select two answers. A, device enrollment. B, automated enrollment. C, user enrollment. D, pre-stage enrollment. Correct answers: A, device enrollment, and C, user enrollment. Let's go over why these are correct. Device enrollment and user enrollment are the two primary options available when a user manually initiates enrollment on a device. Device enrollment is typically used for institutionally owned devices, where the organization retains full control and visibility. User enrollment is designed for personally owned devices, enabling a more privacy-focused setup while still granting IT control over organizational data. Now, automated enrollment is incorrect because it occurs automatically through Apple School Manager or Apple Business Manager during setup, not initiated by the user. Pre-stage enrollment is part of that automated process as well. It configures how devices will be enrolled before they're even unboxed, not through any action taken directly by the user. So, the two correct types of user-initiated enrollment are clearly device enrollment and user enrollment. An IT manager is preparing to distribute learning apps across student iPads. They want the flexibility to shift licenses between users throughout the term. Which feature of Apple School Manager enables this capability? Select one answer. A, Apple ID Federation. B, device assignment. C, bulk purchase of content. D, content reassignment. Correct answer: D, content reassignment. Let's unpack the reasoning behind this. Content reassignment allows administrators in Apple School Manager to transfer app and book licenses between users or devices as needed. This is especially useful in dynamic environments like schools, where users may change throughout a term. Apple ID Federation, on the other hand, deals with user authentication using platforms like Microsoft Azure AD. It has nothing to do with license or content distribution. Device assignment refers to assigning a device to an MDM server, which is important for management, but again, it's unrelated to app license flexibility. Bulk purchase of content allows schools to buy apps and books in volume, but it doesn't provide the ability to reassign them between users. It's the initial purchase mechanism, not the reassignment tool. So when it comes to flexible license management, content reassignment is the feature to rely on. During an audit, you find that a building name listed in your inventory preload CSV is not applying correctly after enrollment. What is most likely the reason? Select one answer. A, the building name was misspelled in the CSV. B, the CSV file was not saved as a UTF-8 CSV. C, the building did not already exist in Jamf Pro. D, the device did not match the serial number. Correct answer: C, the building did not already exist in Jamf Pro. Let's walk through the reasoning. In Jamf Pro, any building name included in an inventory preload CSV must already exist in the system. If the building name is not pre-created in Jamf Pro, the upload will not apply that value correctly, even if all other fields are valid. That's why C is the correct answer. A, a misspelled name might cause a mismatch, but it wouldn't be the core issue if the building itself doesn't exist. It would still be treated as non-existent. B, while formatting as UTF-8 is generally important for data compatibility, it doesn't directly affect whether Jamf can match the building field to an existing value. D, a serial number mismatch affects device assignment, not the validation of the building field. So, to avoid this issue, always ensure all reference building names already exist in Jamf Pro before uploading the CSV. What is the function of the management account created during user-initiated enrollment for macOS? Select one answer. A, it is required for self-service to launch. B, it allows SSH access and supports workflows like LAP. C, it encrypts the file vault disk automatically. D, it connects directly to Apple Business Manager. Correct answer: B, It allows SSH access and supports workflows like laps. Let's walk through this. The management account created during user-initiated enrollment serves important administrative purposes. Most notably, it provides SSH access to the Mac. This is particularly useful for workflows such as LAPS, Local Administrator Password Solution, where secure remote access and password management are essential. A is incorrect because self-service does not rely on the management account. It can launch and operate independently. C is incorrect because file vault encryption is handled separately through configuration profiles and not automatically tied to the creation of a management account. D is incorrect since the management account has no direct link to Apple Business Manager. ABM handles device assignments and enrollment configurations, not user accounts. So the main benefit of the management account is to facilitate remote administrative control, making B the correct and most relevant choice. What happens when File Vault is enabled and encryption is complete on a Mac? Select one answer. A. Only File Vault enabled users can complete the boot process. B. Any local user can decrypt the disk at startup. C. The Jamf management account bypasses the File Vault login. D. The disk automatically decrypts after 48 hours. Correct answer. A. Only File Vault enabled users can complete the boot process. Let's clarify why this is correct. Once File Vault encryption is complete on a Mac, only users who have been explicitly granted File Vault access can unlock the disk and complete the boot process. These users are considered File Vault enabled and can enter their credentials to decrypt the disk at startup. Option B is incorrect because not every local user has access. Users must be granted File Vault access during setup or added later via policy. Option C is incorrect because the Jamf management account does not automatically bypass File Vault. It must also be granted File Vault access explicitly, otherwise it cannot unlock the disk. Option D is completely false. File Vault encryption is persistent and remains active until it's manually turned off. It does not expire or auto-decrypt after any time period. So for secure startup, only File Vault-enabled users can unlock and use the Mac after encryption is complete. What must an admin provide in the MATI before submitting updates? Select three answers. A. Username and password. B. Device type and attribute, serial number of each Jamf server. D. Jamf server URL. Correct answers. A. Username and password. B. Device type and attribute type. D. Jamf server URL. Here's why these are necessary. To perform updates using the MUT mass update tool, an admin must provide a Jamf server URL. This tells the MUT which Jamf Pro instance to target for the update. Without it, the tool wouldn't know where to apply changes. Authenticate with a valid username and password. These credentials are needed to log in and perform any updates. This ensures only authorized admins can make changes. Specify the device type and attribute type. Whether it's updating usernames, asset tags, or another field, the MUT must know what kind of devices, computers, mobile devices, users, and which attribute to update. Option C is incorrect. You don't need the serial number of each Jamf server. Instead, you need device identifiers or usernames from the Jamf database, not the server's own serial number. So, in summary, before updating anything with the MUT, you need to authenticate, point to the right server, and define what and how you want to update. What does Apple Configurator 2 use to apply the automated configuration to devices? Select one answer. A. Assign mobile config package. B. A prepare command. C. A setup assistant trigger. D. A network provisioning utility. Correct answer. B. A prepare command. Let's explain why this is correct. The prepare command in Apple Configurator 2 is the primary action used to apply automated configurations and enrollment settings to Apple devices. It initiates supervision, installs MDM profiles, and can trigger automated enrollment flows, especially when enrolling devices into Apple School Manager or Apple Business Manager. A is incorrect because although Apple Configurator can install mobile config profiles, the actual process of applying them during setup is initiated by the prepare command. The setup assistant trigger relates to user interaction during device setup, but doesn't handle automated configuration itself. Just D is incorrect, as there is no network provisioning utility used in this specific process. Apple Configurator relies on physical USB connections and doesn't use an external network provisioning tool for configuration. So, the correct and essential mechanism used in Apple Configurator 2 to apply configurations is clearly the prepare command. Your company recently switched to a new Apple authorized reseller for iPhones. To ensure new purchases are automatically enrolled into your MDM, what must you do? Select two answers. A. Ask the reseller for their reseller ID. B. Provide your organization ID to the reseller. C. Update the MDM profile on each device manually. D. Verify iCloud accounts on all devices. Correct answers. A. Ask the reseller for their reseller ID, and B. Provide your organization ID to the reseller. Here's why these are the right steps. When switching to a new Apple authorized reseller, you need to establish a trust relationship between their system and your Apple Business Manager ABM account. That's done by 1. Providing your organization ID to the reseller. This ID links your organization's Apple Business Manager account to the reseller's system, allowing them to assign devices to your ABM account automatically. 2. Requesting the reseller's reseller ID. This is required to enter their information into your ABM account under your device supplier settings so that future purchases are registered correctly. Now for the incorrect options. C. Update the MDM profile on each device manually. This is unnecessary and doesn't help with automated assignments for new devices. It's inefficient and defeats the purpose of automated device enrollment. D. Verify iCloud accounts on all devices. This has nothing to do with MDM enrollment or linking a reseller to ABM. iCloud accounts are user-based and irrelevant to the automated assignment process. So to ensure seamless automated enrollment, just link your organization ID and the reseller's reseller ID, and everything else will flow from there. When creating a Jamf Pro user account from a directory service, what must be configured first? Select one answer. A. An SMTP server. B. A directory service integration. C. A password policy. D. An audit. Correct answer. B. A directory service integration. Let's explain this step by step. To enable Jamf Pro to pull in and authenticate users from an external source such as LDAP or a cloud identity provider, the first thing you must do is configure a directory service integration. Without this setup, Jamf Pro doesn't know how to communicate with the external directory or recognize the users you want to bring in. Now let's break down the other choices. A. An SMTP server. This is only for sending emails like enrollment invitations or password resets, and it plays no role in user authentication. C. A password policy. This governs how passwords are managed for local Jamf accounts, not those coming from directory services like Active Directory or Azure AD. D. An audit log. Audit logs track user activity and system changes, but they don't affect or control user account creation or authentication. So for directory-based user accounts, directory integration is step 1, making option B the only correct answer. Which component is responsible for the recurring check-in of managed Macs with Jamf Pro? Select one answer. A. com.jamf.management.login.plist. B. com.jamfmanagement.daemon.plist. C. com.jamfsoftware.task.1plist. D. Jamf Remote Assist. Correct answer. C. com.jamfsoftware.task.1plist. Here's the breakdown. com.jamfsoftware.task.1.plist is a launch daemon that runs on managed macOS devices and is responsible for the recurring check-in process with the Jamf Pro server. This recurring check-in is vital because it's how the device gets ongoing management instructions like policies, scripts, and inventory updates. Why the others are wrong. A. com.jamf.management.login.plist. This is related to login events. It monitors when users log in, not check-in cycles. B. com.jamf.management.daemon.plist. This handles broader tasks like network state changes and background services, but not the scheduled check-ins. D. Jamf Remote Assist. This is used to initiate remote support sessions, not for checking in with the Jamf server. So if you're troubleshooting or confirming the mechanism that ensures regular communication between Macs and Jamf Pro, look for the com.jamfsoftware.task.1.plist file. Select one answer. Which macOS version allows supervision via account-driven enrollment? A. macOS 10.10, B. macOS 11, C. macOS 9, D. macOS 10.13. Correct answer. B. macOS 11. Let's go ahead and explain this choice. Supervision via account-driven enrollment is only supported starting with macOS 11. This means that when an Apple device is enrolled using account credentials, supervision, Apple's method for granting higher-level management control, is automatically applied, but only if the device is running macOS 11 or later. Now let's look at the other options. macOS 10.10 predates this capability entirely, so devices on that version can't be supervised through account-driven methods. Similarly, macOS 9 doesn't even support MDM, let alone supervision. macOS 10.13, while it supports some MDM features, still doesn't support supervision via account-driven enrollment. So if you're managing Macs and need that higher level of control through account-driven methods, macOS 11 is your baseline version. Select 3 answers. Which of the following remote commands can only be sent to supervised mobile devices? A. Restart device. B. Set wallpaper. C. Enable disable Bluetooth. D. Clear passcode. Correct answers: A. Restart device. B. Set wallpaper. C. Enable disable Bluetooth. Let's take a moment to explain why these are correct. When a mobile device is supervised, Jamf Pro can send more advanced commands to it. Restart device is one such command. It's restricted to supervised iOS devices because it impacts the system directly. Similarly, setting the wallpaper remotely is considered a user experience modification and is only available when the device is supervised. Enabling or disabling Bluetooth remotely also requires supervision status because it directly affects connectivity options. On the other hand, clear passcode can be issued to any iOS device regardless of supervision. This command is critical in situations where access is needed quickly, even if the device isn't fully managed at the supervision level. So again, remember, restart device, set wallpaper, and enable disable Bluetooth all require device supervision, while clear passcode does not. Which service enables Jamf Pro to send MDM commands like lost mode to devices? Select one answer. A. Apple Configurator. B. Apple Remote Desktop. C. Apple Push Notifications Service, APNs. D. Apple School Manager. Correct answer: C. Apple Push Notification Service, APNs. Now let's go ahead and explain this choice. To begin with, Apple Push Notification Service, commonly referred to as APNs, is the underlying channel that allows Jamf Pro to send MDM commands to Apple devices. When you initiate a command like lost mode from the Jamf Pro dashboard, that instruction is sent through APNs to reach the target device, triggering the expected action remotely. On the other hand, Apple Configurator is primarily used for manually enrolling and preparing devices during setup, not for remote management after deployment. Similarly, Apple Remote Desktop is used for remote control within a local network, but isn't part of the MDM command delivery system. Finally, Apple School Manager is used to enroll and assign devices, but it doesn't handle push command communication. So in real-world scenarios, whenever Jamf Pro needs to lock a device, send lost mode, or deploy a configuration remotely, it's the APN's infrastructure that carries that message securely, and reliably. Why does Jamf Pro recommend against using the Jamf management account as the first file vault-enabled user? Select one answer. A. It may create keychain conflicts with network extensions. B. The password won't be escrowed correctly in the API. C. The account can't be removed once file vault is enabled. D. It can't generate personal recovery keys. Correct answer: B. The password won't be escrowed correctly in the API. Let's now move on to the explanation. Jamf Pro recommends avoiding the use of the management account as the first file vault-enabled user because of password escrow issues. Specifically, when this account is used first, its password may not be properly captured and stored in the API, which can cause failures in workflows such as password recovery through lapse or institutional access to file vault. Meanwhile, although network extension keychain conflicts might sound plausible, they are unrelated to the file vault password management process. Similarly, even though file vault-enabled users have tighter security, they can still be removed using proper administrative procedures. Lastly, personal recovery keys are generated by the system itself, not by individual user accounts. So, to maintain proper security workflows and ensure recovery mechanisms function as intended, it's best to use a different account for initial file vault enablement, not the Jamf management account. Which two formats are recommended for uploading custom icons to self-service policies? Select two answers. A. JPG, B. PNG, C. GIF, D. TIFF. Correct answers: B. PNG, and C. GIF. Let's now break this down with some explanation. PNG is one of the best supported formats for icons in Jamf Pro self-service. It maintains high visual quality and transparency, ensuring that icons display cleanly across different interface themes and sizes. Likewise, GIF is another recommended format, particularly when animations or lightweight icons are needed. On the other hand, while JPG is common in digital media, it's not ideal here. JPG lacks transparency support and may not render as expected within the self-service environment. TIFF, although a high-quality format for print or archival use, isn't supported at all in Jamf's icon upload system. So when you're preparing custom icons for policies and self-service, stick with PNG or GIF for the best results. Your security team requests real-time visibility into which macOS devices are running outdated versions of a critical third-party app. You need to provide this data along with device compliance reports that also show encryption status. How should you proceed? Select one answer. A. Use basic patch reporting to generate a list of outdated devices. B. Create an advanced computer search with patch-related and encryption criteria. C. Enable smart groups for encryption status and manually cross-reference app versions. D. Rely on inventory data and export to Excel for filtering. Correct answer: B. Create an advanced computer search with patch-related and encryption criteria. Now let's explain why this is the best approach. Advanced computer searches in Jamf Pro let you combine multiple data points, such as app version and encryption status, into one powerful dynamic query. This means you can generate real-time, actionable reports that meet both the security and compliance needs of your organization. On the other hand, basic patch reporting is limited to showing the version status of approved software. It doesn't include encryption. Similarly, while smart groups are flexible, manually cross-referencing app versions adds unnecessary overhead. Exporting to Excel might seem convenient, but it lacks real-time updates and forces you to handle data outside the Jamf ecosystem. So by using an advanced search, you ensure both accuracy and efficiency in your compliance reporting. You notice that multiple patch policies are configured for the same software title across departments. One team reports that their policy isn't running. What might be the cause? Select one answer. A. Their policy was missing from the Jamf Pro dashboard. B. They didn't enable retries. C. Another patch policy with a higher version or greater ID is taking precedence. D. They forgot to enable self-service for the policy. Correct answer: C. Another patch policy with a higher version or greater ID is taking precedence benchfired. Let's go ahead and explain why this is the right answer. In Jamf Pro, when more than one patch policy targets the same software title, the system automatically prioritizes the policy with the highest version number. If version numbers are equal, then the policy with the higher ID takes precedence. This means that even if a department has a valid patch policy, it may not run if another policy is seen as more relevant by version or ID. Now, while it might seem like a missing policy from the dashboard is a concern, the dashboard is purely informational and doesn't affect execution. Similarly, enabling retries is useful for troubleshooting failed deployments, but it doesn't influence policy selection or precedence. Finally, self-service availability is only required if users need to initiate installations manually, which isn't the case for automated patching. So the root of the issue here is priority. Jamf Pro selects the patch policy with the higher version or ID, which is why the team's policy isn't running. A technician performs a simple search for a user's full name instead of searching for mobile devices. They want to view which devices the user is assigned to. What must they do? Select one answer. A. Export the results to Excel. B. Click Expand next to the result. C. Rerun the search in the Mobile Devices tab. D. Access the User tab and look for devices. Correct answer: B. Click Expand next to the result. Let's break this down and explain the reasoning behind the answer. When a technician searches by username in Jamf Pro, the initial results don't directly show all related devices. However, next to each user result, there's an Expand option. Clicking that expands the view to include associated records like mobile devices, computers, or configuration profiles tied to that user. Now, exporting the results to Excel might be useful for reporting, but it doesn't show linked device details immediately. Similarly, rerunning the search under the Mobile Devices tab could work, but it's unnecessary because the Expand option already shows everything. As for accessing the User tab, that's a slower route, not wrong, but less efficient. So for the quickest and most effective method, clicking Expand is the immediate action that reveals which devices are assigned to the user. An admin is reviewing the content caching category and notices an unusually high value for max cache pressure in last hour. What does this typically indicate? Select one answer. A, there are too many content servers. B, the device has caching issues and performance bottlenecks. C, the server was rebooted during peak usage. D, the public address of the server changed. Correct answer, B, the device has caching issues and performance bottlenecks. Let's go ahead and explain this choice. When you see a high value for max cache pressure, it's a strong sign that the device is struggling to manage its cache efficiently. This happens when system resources like disk space, memory, or bandwidth are under stress, preventing optimal caching performance. Now, you might think too many content servers would increase pressure, but actually, it's the opposite. More servers typically balance the load and reduce strain. Likewise, while rebooting during peak usage can impact uptime, it doesn't cause high cache pressure. And as for a changed public address, that would affect connectivity, not internal caching behavior. So, in summary, a high cache pressure value points directly to performance bottlenecks or strained resources on the caching server itself. A Jamf Pro user configures their computer inventory display, but notices fields are not in the order they selected. How are the fields arranged? Select one answer. A, in order of user preference. B, in random order. C, in alphabetical order by category. D, in order based on last edited. Correct answer. C, in alphabetical order by category. Let's explain what's happening here. When a user selects fields for the computer inventory display in Jamf Pro, they might expect the fields to appear in the exact order they picked them. However, Jamf Pro organizes the display based on predefined logic. Specifically, it arranges fields alphabetically within each category, so it's not based on user customization, randomness, or edit history. For example, if you select serial number, operating system, and asset tag, and they all fall under the general category, Jamf will sort them alphabetically within that group. That's why asset tag might appear before operating system, even if you selected them in reverse. To summarize, field arrangement follows an alphabetical order within their categories, not how or when you selected them. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. Advanced searches in Jamf Pro can be saved and reused later. Correct answer, true. Advanced searches only work with mobile devices. Correct answer, false. Advanced searches cannot be cloned once created. Correct answer, false. Nearly every inventory field in Jamf Pro can be used as search criteria. Correct answer, true. Let's go through each of these. Starting with the first statement, advanced searches in Jamf Pro can indeed be saved and reused. This allows administrators to avoid rebuilding complex queries from scratch, which is especially useful in large environments with recurring compliance or inventory checks. Moving on, the claim that advanced searches only work with mobile devices is false. Jamf Pro supports advanced searches for both mobile and computer devices. Although there may be some differences in available criteria depending on device type, the functionality applies broadly across platforms. Next, the idea that advanced searches cannot be cloned is also incorrect. You can clone a saved search, tweak the criteria slightly, and create a variation without affecting the original. This flexibility helps streamline administrative tasks. Finally, the statement about inventory fields being usable in search criteria is true. Jamf Pro allows you to filter searches using almost any field available in the device inventory, offering powerful targeting and reporting capabilities. So remember, advanced searches are flexible, reusable, and widely applicable across both mobile and computer inventory. What must be done to integrate warranty information into Jamf Pro automatically? Select one answer. A. Integrate with Apple's Global Service Exchange ESX. B. Enable File Vault 2 on all devices. C. Assign devices to a smart group. D. Push the Settings app to all Macs. Correct answer. A. Integrate with Apple's Global Service Exchange GSX. Let me explain why this is the right choice. When you want to automatically display warranty data for Apple devices in Jamf Pro, you need to connect to Apple's Global Service Exchange, or GSX. This integration pulls warranty information directly from Apple and populates it in the inventory records of enrolled devices. It's an automated process and the only supported method for this purpose. Now, enabling File Vault 2 might be important for security, but it has nothing to do with warranty data. It deals strictly with disk encryption. Likewise, assigning devices to a smart group is great for dynamic filtering and automation workflows, but it does not facilitate warranty data integration. Lastly, pushing the Settings app is unrelated entirely. It's a user-level action that doesn't impact device inventory or warranty syncing. So to recap, if your goal is warranty automation, GSX integration is the only path forward. What action happens when Jamf Pro cannot complete the Erase All Content and Settings command on macOS 12 or later? Select one answer. A fallback behavior is triggered. B, a forced firmware lock is applied. C, the device enters lost mode. D, the system reboots into recovery. Correct answer, A fallback behavior is triggered. Let me break this down. When Jamf Pro sends the Erase All Content and Settings command to a macOS 12 or later device and it fails, Jamf doesn't just stop there. Instead, it initiates a backup plan known as a fallback behavior. This fallback ensures the wipe command can still be carried out using alternative methods, like a legacy erase process. Now let's clarify the incorrect choices. First, Jamf does not apply a forced firmware lock when this command fails. That's not part of its standard workflow. Second, lost mode is a completely separate command and must be manually triggered by an admin. And third, the system doesn't automatically boot into recovery. That's not the designed fallback mechanism. So to sum up, Jamf is smart enough to try a different route when the standard erase method doesn't work by triggering a fallback behavior. What happens if you disable diagnostic and usage reporting via Jamf Pro? One answer. A, App Analytics is automatically disabled. B, the Jamf binary is removed. C, all self-service features are disabled. D, the user is forced to log in again. Correct answer. A, App Analytics is automatically disabled. Now let's explain why. When you turn off diagnostic and usage reporting in Jamf Pro, App Analytics is also disabled automatically. That's because Analytics depends on diagnostic data to track application behavior and usage across devices. Let's look at the incorrect options. Disabling reporting does not remove the Jamf binary that stays installed on the device. Also, self-service features remain fully functional because they don't rely on analytics or diagnostics. Finally, users are not forced to log in again. No new authentication is triggered when this setting is changed. So in short, disabling diagnostic and usage reporting directly impacts analytics, but not other features or user access. An admin wants iPhones to be updated without requiring users to unlock their devices. Which method is best? Select one answer. A, download and schedule to install. B, download and install. C, download only. D, download, install, and allow deferral. Correct answer. A, download and schedule to install. Let me walk you through why this is the best option. Download and schedule to install is the only method that supports installing updates on iPhones without requiring the user to unlock their device. It leverages declarative device management and uses an authorization token to schedule and perform the update silently in the background. By contrast, download and install still prompts for a passcode if one is set, which defeats the goal of a zero-touch update. Download only just saves the update file on the device but does not proceed with installation. And finally, download, install, and allow deferral isn't supported for mobile devices. It's designed for macOS. So to summarize, if the goal is seamless, user-free updates on iPhones, download and schedule to install is the clear choice. Which of the following attributes can you search by in a simple mobile device search? Select three answers. A, Bluetooth MAC address. B, room. C, application name. D, device model. Correct answers. A, Bluetooth MAC address. B, room. C, application name. Let's go ahead and explain this selection. When using a simple mobile device search in Jamf Pro, you're limited to specific attributes that are indexed for basic search functionality. Among these, Bluetooth MAC address, room, and application name are all supported. That means you can enter those criteria directly into a search to filter or locate mobile devices. On the other hand, device model is not part of the attributes available for simple searches. If you need to search based on the model, you would have to perform an advanced mobile device search instead. So the key takeaway is stick to the indexed fields like Bluetooth MAC address, room, and application name for quick and simple lookups. What is the recommended batch size for MDM profile renewal via mass action? Select one answer. A, 50 or fewer, B, 100 or fewer, C, 500 or fewer, D, no limit. Correct answer, B, 100 or fewer. Let's take a moment to break that down. The best practice recommended by Jamf for mass MDM profile renewal is to limit the batch size to 100 or fewer devices. This helps ensure that the command executes reliably across all devices and avoids issues like command failure or timeouts during transmission. Although 50 or fewer is even safer, it's a bit too conservative and not the official recommendation. Meanwhile, going as high as 500 or more greatly increases the risk of errors or timeouts, especially in larger environments. And as for no limit, that approach is not supported and could overwhelm the server or the network. So again, the optimal and Jamf recommended batch size for reliable performance is 100 or fewer devices per mass action. Where can you find information about a device's app analytics being enabled or disabled? Select one answer. A, hardware category, B, general category, C, apps category, D, security category. Correct answer B, category. Now let me explain why. The general category in Jamf Pro provides a comprehensive overview of device settings, including whether app analytics is enabled or disabled. This is where administrators can easily confirm the status of analytics reporting for managed devices. In contrast, the hardware category focuses strictly on device specifications like processor type, memory, and serial number. It does not track application usage or analytics. The apps category, as its name suggests, lists installed applications but does not indicate whether analytics are being reported. Lastly, the security category deals with elements such as file vault, encryption, and lost mode, not anything related to app analytics. So when you're checking app analytics status, remember, head straight to the general category. Which profile installation requirement must be met when creating a mobile device configuration profile? Select one answer. A, enable managed Apple IDs for all users. B, generate a smart group per configuration profile. C, upload a push certificate to Jamf Pro. D, use Jamf self-service. Correct answer, C, upload a push certificate to Jamf Pro. Let's now go through the explanation. A push certificate is required in Jamf Pro for any MDM communication with Apple devices. Without it, the system cannot send configuration profiles or commands to managed iPhones, iPads, or Macs. That's why uploading the certificate is not just recommended, it's essential. On the other hand, enabling managed Apple IDs is useful in many Apple School or Business Manager integrations, but it's not mandatory for configuration profiles. Similarly, creating a smart group helps you target specific devices or users, but it's not a required step just to install a profile. Lastly, Jamf Self-Service provides a user-friendly portal for optional app and profile deployment, but it's again not a prerequisite for configuration profiles to work. So for profile installation to function properly, the non-negotiable requirement is uploading a push certificate to Jamf Pro. You want to prevent users from accessing the App Store and only allow app installations through MDM. What restrictions must be set? Select two answers. A, restrict trusting new enterprise app authors. B, restrict installing apps using Apple Configurator and iTunes. C, restrict modifying account settings. D, restrict changing Wi-Fi settings. Correct answers: A, restrict trusting new enterprise app authors. B, restrict installing apps using Apple Configurator and iTunes. Now let's walk through the explanation. To prevent users from bypassing MDM and installing apps from unauthorized sources, you need to enable two specific restrictions. By selecting Restrict Trusting New Enterprise App Authors, you prevent sideloading of apps signed with enterprise developer certificates. This is critical, as users might otherwise install unmanaged apps outside of the App Store or MDM. Next, enabling restrict installing apps using Apple Configurator and iTunes limits app installation only to MDM distributed apps, ensuring tighter control over the app environment. This blocks manual installations via USB or external tools. In contrast, restrict modifying account settings only affects Apple ID and account changes. It doesn't stop app installations. Similarly, restrict changing Wi-Fi settings governs network access but has no bearing on how apps are installed. So to strictly enforce app installation through MDM only, you must configure those first two restrictions. Which two options are only available for managed apps but not unmanaged apps in Jamf Pro? Select two answers. A. Force an app update. B. Remove the app from Jamf self-service. C. Prevent app data backup. D. Add app to dock layout. Correct answers: A. Force an app update. C. Prevent app data backup. Let's now break it down for clarity. When working with managed apps in Jamf Pro, you gain additional administrative control compared to unmanaged apps. First, Force an app update is exclusive to managed apps. Jamf can push updates automatically only if it manages the app installation and lifecycle. For unmanaged apps, Jamf lacks the control needed to enforce updates. Second, Prevent app data backup is another managed-only setting. It ensures sensitive app data isn't backed up to iCloud or iTunes, a common security requirement in enterprise environments. But again, it only applies when Jamf manages the app. By contrast, Remove the app from Jamf self-service is a general interface setting. Both managed and unmanaged apps can appear or be removed from self-service. It doesn't reflect app management status. Lastly, Add app to dock layout isn't an app-level control but a device-level layout policy and doesn't distinguish between managed and unmanaged apps. So if you're limiting features based strictly on app management, the only valid answers are Force an app update and Prevent app data backup. Select one answer. An IT administrator logs into Jamf Pro and wants to quickly monitor the compliance status of their licensed software and patch reports. They decide to make use of the Jamf Pro dashboard to track this data efficiently. What must they do to see this data in the dashboard? A. Show in Jamf Pro dashboard must be checked for those items when created. B. Manually refresh the browser every time they log in. C. Enable auto refresh to populate data dynamically. D. Click the Jamf Pro logo once to enable widget display. Correct answer: A. Show in Jamf Pro dashboard must be checked for those items when created. Let's take a moment to explain. To ensure the data appears on the Jamf Pro dashboard, the admin needs to check the box labeled Show in Jamf Pro dashboard at the time the item, like a patch report or policy, is created. This is the only way for that item's data to become visible on the dashboard. Now, manually refreshing the browser, as suggested in option B, can help update the page content, but it doesn't determine whether the data shows on the dashboard in the first place. As for option C, Jamf Pro does not currently support automatic dynamic refresh of dashboard widgets. Any updates must be refreshed manually. Lastly, option D implies that clicking the logo enables widgets, but in reality, that just brings you back to the dashboard. It doesn't toggle the display of data. So, to ensure your compliance and patch information shows up where it matters, always remember to check Show in Jamf Pro dashboard during creation. Select one answer. A technician updates the check-in frequency on a group of Macs. One user reports that their device hasn't updated a configuration immediately after the change. What best explains this behavior? A. The device must be restarted for the setting to take effect. B. Each device checks in exactly at the same time. C. The updated frequency setting applies immediately, but check-in timing varies by device. D. The frequency setting was not properly saved. Correct answer: C. The updated frequency setting applies immediately, but check-in timing varies by device. Let's go ahead and explain this. When a check-in frequency setting is changed in Jamf Pro, it takes effect immediately. However, each device follows its own internal check-in timer. That means even though the new setting is active, devices won't all check in at the exact same moment. Instead, they do so according to when their individual timers next fire. So the staggered behavior observed by the technician is completely expected. Now, option A is incorrect because no reboot is required for check-in frequency updates to apply. Option B is also wrong. Check-ins are not synchronized across devices. And although D might seem plausible at first glance, the frequency setting was indeed saved. The observed variation is simply a result of how individual check-in timers work. In conclusion, the updated frequency setting applies right away, but each device follows its own unique timing, which explains the staggered behavior. Select one answer. What does branding of self-service allow admins to change? A. Device lock screen. B. Users Finder preferences. C. App name, icon, and header image. D. Jamf Pro admin console color scheme. Correct answer. C. App name, icon, and header image. Let's take a moment to explain this choice. In Jamf Pro, branding the self-service app gives admins the ability to tailor the end-user experience. Specifically, they can customize the app name, assign a unique icon, and upload a custom header image. This helps organizations reinforce their brand identity and deliver a familiar interface to users accessing IT-approved apps and resources. Now, the option for the device lock screen is incorrect because branding does not extend to system-level settings like the lock screen. Similarly, users' Finder preferences are controlled by different configuration profiles or user settings, not by self-service branding. And finally, the Jamf Pro admin console color scheme refers to the web admin interface used by IT staff, which is unrelated to what end users see in self-service. So to recap, branding in self-service is all about visual customization for the end user interface, and that includes the app name, icon, and header image. For each statement below, indicate whether the answer is true or false. Typing man pwd in terminal opens the manual page for the pwd command. Correct answer, true. To exit a manual page in terminal, you press the Q key. Correct answer, true. The jamf help command provides a list of available Jamf binary commands. Correct answer, true. The Jamf binary can only be run by users with standard user permissions. Correct answer, false. Let's go ahead and explain each of these. First, using man pwd in terminal is correct because the man command, short for manual, opens the help documentation for any command it follows, in this case, the pwd command, which shows the present working directory. Secondly, to exit a manual page in terminal, the Q key is indeed the correct way. Once you're done reading a manual, pressing Q quits the viewer and returns you to the command line. Next, the Jamf help command is very useful. It displays all available Jamf binary commands along with brief descriptions, acting as a built-in reference for administrators using Jamf Pro. Finally, the statement about Jamf binaries being limited to standard users is false. In fact, most Jamf management commands require elevated or root privileges. Standard users do not typically have the rights needed to execute administrative tasks through the binary. In summary, these commands help streamline Jamf management, but understanding when and how to use them, especially with proper permissions, is key to mastering the terminal interface. Select one answer. You created a policy to install essential software across all staff Macs. You want the policy to retry up to 10 times if it fails and ensure it only runs once. What should you configure? A. Set execution frequency to once per computer and enable retry on failure. B. Set execution frequency to ongoing with retry enabled. C. Use a custom trigger and self-service deployment. D. Set execution frequency to once per user and trigger to login. Correct answer, A. Set execution frequency to once per computer and enable retry on failure. Let's go ahead and explain this. When deploying software that must run only once per device but still needs reliability, setting the execution frequency to once per computer ensures it won't run multiple times on the same Mac. This is especially helpful in environments where users move between machines or devices are shared. Enabling the retry on failure option gives the system the ability to attempt the policy again, up to 10 times. If it encounters an issue like the machine being offline or the install process being interrupted. By contrast, selecting ongoing means the policy will try to run every time the trigger happens, which could lead to repeated installations. The self-service option relies on user initiation, which doesn't guarantee retry attempts. Similarly, choosing once per user and setting the trigger to log in might run the policy multiple times on shared devices, leading to unintended outcomes. Therefore, to achieve one-time execution with built-in reliability, the best configuration is setting the frequency to once per computer and enabling retry on failure. Select one answer. Which payload allows you to create and delete local user accounts? A. Doc items. B. Management accounts. C. Local accounts. D. EFI password. Correct answer. C. Local accounts. Let's go ahead and explain this. The local accounts payload is specifically designed for managing user accounts on macOS devices. It enables administrators to create, delete, and even reset passwords for local users. This is especially useful in scenarios where IT teams need to pre-provision user accounts or rotate credentials for local admin users in an automated, secure way. Now, the doc items payload, while useful, is only intended to configure which apps appear in the user's doc. It doesn't deal with user identities or system-level permissions. The management account payload, on the other hand, is focused on rotating the password for the Jamf management account used by Jamf Pro, not regular user accounts. Lastly, the EFI password payload is all about securing the firmware level of the Mac and has nothing to do with local user account management. So if you're setting up or removing user accounts, the clear choice is the local accounts payload. Select one answer. What service does Jamf Pro use to execute policies on computers? A. APNs. B. Jamf binary. C. Configuration profile. D. Self-service app. Correct answer, B. Jamf binary. Let's take a moment to explain this. Jamf Pro relies on the Jamf binary, a software component installed directly on managed Mac computers to execute policies. When Jamf Pro sends a command, it's the Jamf binary on the device that actually carries it out, whether it's installing software, running scripts, or enforcing configurations. Now, while APNs, or Apple Push Notification Service, is useful for initiating remote commands, like remote lock or wipe, it doesn't actually execute policies. Instead, it's more like a wake-up call. The configuration profile is another commonly used tool in Jamf, but it's designed for applying settings such as Wi-Fi or security preferences, not for performing actions like installing apps. Lastly, the self-service app offers users a way to trigger policies manually. But again, it's not the tool that executes them. It simply calls the Jamf binary to do the job. So when it comes to policy execution, Jamf binary is the engine doing the real work.